If you're a fan of classic retellings, then this is definitely a good book to start with. Hello my friends, my name is AJ and welcome back to my book nook. Today we are going to be talking about The Guinevere Deception by Kiersten White. I am a big fan of the show Merlin. It's actually my favorite show. And so I was really excited to read a book that's another creative retelling of the classic Arthurian legends. And honestly, any retelling of an Arthurian legends are typically pretty great. The story of the Guinevere Deception is that Guinevere, a princess from the south, has been sent to marry the young King Arthur in Camelot. However, the girl who has been sent is not actually Guinevere at all. She is in fact a changeling sent by the great wizard Merlin to protect Arthur from an unknown dark threat. Now this Guinevere imposter must learn how to hide her true abilities, as magic is completely banned in Camelot, as well as learn how to blend in, play the part of a princess, and begin to care for the king that she must look after. As with these reviews, most of this will be spoiler free. However, I am going to have a spoiler filled section which I will give you a warning for before we get to, so that you can skip over it if you haven't read the book yet. Let's start with just my general review of the book. Honestly, not a lot happens in the first 2/3 of this novel. It's a lot of setup, it's a lot of introduction to the world, it's a lot of introduction to the scenario, because this is the first book in a series, so that is a trap that a lot of first books in series fall into, I find. If you recall with my review of the Star Trail series, the first book in that series, it definitely has a lot of introduction to the world, introduction to the magic system, stuff like that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It wasn't the case for the Star Trail Portal Painter, and it's certainly not the case for the Guinevere Deception. Now, it can in some cases mean that the story is very slow, if it is just meant to be an introduction to the rest of the story. But it didn't actually feel slowly paced at all. It felt very steadily paced, not super fast paced until you got into the final third of the book, but it definitely didn't feel like it was dragging on. It actually worked out pretty well. The imagery in this book was absolutely fantastic. As I was reading it, I could picture it as a show, and I think in part that had a lot to do with the fact that Merlin is my favorite show, and it is sort of similar to Merlin. But the big thing for me was just how well told the story was. Now, every book should have good imagery, but for me, I find that if a book can make me imagine sitting down on my couch and watching it as a TV show and finding that sort of episodic flow of it, that's a tell of a good story. The magic system in this book is also really fantastic. Guinevere primarily does knot and braid magic, as well as a little bit of fire magic. But we are introduced to some other systems, such as water magic and scrying and all these different forms of magic that can be done. However, we are told that all of these magic systems have a price to pay, that you cannot just create magic from nothing. You have to pay as part of yourself into your magic, or a part of someone else into your magic. And I really love that, because that is something that we get to see a little bit of in some other stories where magic is used, but I love the idea that magic does not come from nothing, that it has to have some sort of price to pay, whether that be yourself, whether that be your well-being, whether that be someone else or someone's life. I love that idea because it adds this morality question into it of how do you get these amazing powers, and is it worth what they can do? Let's talk a little bit about some of the characters. Guinevere, the main character, well, not Guinevere, I suppose, is a fantastic protagonist. She's hiding a lot from the people around her, but she also has a lot hidden from her. Her memories seem to be very fragmented, and she seems to be missing a lot of them. And what that means is that we actually get a sort of, I would refer to as a pseudo untrustworthy narrator. She's not so untrustworthy in the sense that she's manipulative or that she has deluded herself into believing a certain thing. It's that she doesn't even remember a lot of things about her past. She doesn't remember a lot about her childhood, which means that she's learning things for the first time. We're learning things for the first time, which makes her a great protagonist to look through. She also begins to realize as the book goes on that she's missing a lot of who she is, which means that you start to question, well, she's learning these for the first time, but maybe she's not. Maybe she's relearning something and she doesn't realize it. And I think that that was a really great way, because she is hiding things. As I said, she's not really Guinevere. She has magic. She's hiding all these different aspects of herself. So by hiding aspects of her, not only from the people around her, but also from us, the audience, it really helps to cement that sort of mysteriousness that surrounds her. Arthur, the king, the big character that is very important in many of these retellings, he's also really great. We kind of get to see a young boy being pulled so thin in so many different directions. We get to see a little bit more of the political side as Guinevere learns to be a queen. Normally in these sorts of stories, you see a lot of, adventures and talking with the knights and everything like that. But this side, we got to see a side that was so real and so human, and he was struggling and he was trying so hard to keep everything together, and he wanted to help everyone, but he couldn't, and he had to make really difficult decisions, and he was still a boy. He has emotions that he needs to try and manage while also managing an entire kingdom, and it's so well done, and it makes him so real and sympathetic. And I feel a lot of times in a lot of retellings, Arthur is sort of this larger than life figure that you can't really relate to, you can't really sympathize for. But this book did so well at making him feel young and making him feel like just a young king who has had too much on his plate and really has no choice. The relationship between Guinevere and Arthur is honestly just really sweet. I loved seeing it grow. I love seeing how much they both care for each other and how they're both looking out for each other. And I loved seeing this sort of fake dating trope being turned on its head in a completely different sense. Obviously, you're reading it and you're thinking, this is, it's Guinevere and King Arthur. Like, obviously, they're married, they're in love. But the thing is that in a lot of these legends originally, they're not, they're married sort of out of convenience, and, it's not a great relationship because he's away a lot of time. He can't focus on her. And that is definitely what you see in the novel. You definitely see him being pulled very thin, not being able to pay a lot of attention to her, but you do see those moments when they're together. He really does care for her, and she really cares for him. And I think it's a very beautifully well-written relationship. One thing I will say about this book is that I really wish we could have gotten to see more of Brangian, who is Guinevere's sort of lady's maid. Brangian has a lot of really interesting backstory. She has some interesting backstory with one of the knights. She has really interesting backstory regarding some things about Guinevere, and we get to find a lot of very cool parts of her that we only really get to peek at. We don't really get to see the big picture of who she is and really more detail about who she is, and I really would have liked to dive into that a little bit more. I'm sure that in future books in the series we will get to dive into a little bit more, and I do definitely plan on reading the other books in the series, but I just would have liked to see a little bit more now. It's hard to be introduced to something and then you don't get to dive into it when it's so interesting, and I just would have liked to see more of that. Alright, that is it for my non-spoiler review. Now let's dive into some of my spoiler-filled opinions of the book. First off, let's talk about the reveal of the Patchwork Knight Lancelot. Now, first of all, the reveal that she is a woman is massive. Obviously you spend a lot of the book thinking, oh, it's some sort of magical being or someone who's working with a magical being. And the way that's set up is so great, and especially I think me having watched Merlin made a lot of impact on that, because in that show there's a lot of times where people are sort of actively participating in competitions to try and kill the king and are magic and using magic there. So I definitely was very in on that, oh, they're using magic right away. And I think that that was done very well, that the big secret was actually, oh, she's a woman and she wants to be a knight, but she can't be a knight because she's a woman. And I think that was integrated very well into the story. And then they reveal that her name is Lancelot. If you know Arthurian legend, I don't think I need to explain why that's a big deal. Because I had been waiting for so long to see who Lancelot was gonna be. You know, Mordred was displayed already, and Mordred is a big part in one of Arthur's knights, and I didn't know where Lancelot was. You know, Leon and Percival and Gawain were there, but I was like, where is Lancelot? Lancelot is Arthur's best friend in the original stories, and I was really confused as to where he was, as he plays a big role in Guinevere's story as well. And then finally, it's revealed that this is Lancelot, and I was like, oh, okay. Not where I thought this was gonna go, but I will take it. The other thing that I want to talk about is Mordred's betrayal at the very end of the book. This was one of those moments where I was reading it and I was just like, yep, called it. Mordred, in every aspect of every story, is always the one who tries to take down Arthur. And I was really confused. I thought perhaps they were taking a different direction with the story. I thought perhaps they were going in a direction where this time Mordred was a good person. I mean, they did go in a different direction with Lancelot. And honestly, his betrayal did not come as much as a surprise to me. I was just thinking to myself, yeah, that's what I thought was coming. Because even though I had accepted, oh yeah, he's just the good guy now, in the back of my head, I was like, no, this is coming. Having said that, I do think it was really well done. I think it was great having him betray Gwen in that way, having him betray her in the sense that, oh, you know, he's trying to help her, but in reality, you know, this is what he's been planning all along. And the fact that he's trying to sway her to his side because he knows that she has magic and using that secret part of her against her. I just thought it was really, really well done. And I really enjoyed Mordred in this book, especially seeing sort of his relationship and his kind of softness with Gwen. And this entire betrayal really makes you think, did he actually care about her, or was this entire thing meant to be a manipulation? And if that's the case, did he know the entire time that she had magic? And it lets you start to question it, and I think it lets you form your own opinions, which I really, really enjoy. So I'm kind of hoping that they don't go one way or the other in the other books in the series. And I'm hoping that they leave it ambiguous so that you can decide. Welcome back, my non-spoiler people. So what are my final thoughts? Overall, I found that the Guinevere Deception was a fantastic adaptation of Arthurian legend. It puts a very creative new twist on it in a way that's very fun and very mysterious, and brings these brand new fun characters in while tying in sort of the original parts of them. It allows characters to take on new life and adds new stories to them, and gives Guinevere a brand new power in her own story, which she originally does not have a lot of power in, while keeping the charm of the original stories. Overall, I really, really like the Guinevere Deception. I can't wait to read the next book in this series, and I hope that if you are interested in this, you will pick it up as well. But that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to stick around and be notified when my next video comes out. And let me know in the comments below, have you read the Guinevere Deception, or did this video make you want to read it? Are you interested in other classic retellings that you would like me to cover? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation with all of you. But that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see all of you lovely people in the next video. Bye!